how's it going? Alright, so I've had a video that I've wanted to do for a little while now, but I wanted to wait till I could sit down and spend some time actually going over some of the things that I was thinking about, and today seemed like a good day to do that. So I'm outside trying to enjoy some of this nice weather for a change. But anyway, the video or the subject that has been on my mind is America the next Weimar Republic? And before I go any further, before I go into any depth on this subject, I want to preface everything by saying that I'm not an economics major or economics expert. I'm not a financial expert by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm not going to go into deep detail on some of the things that I'm going to cover. I want to hit mainly some of the higher points of the comparison here. But it's stuff that I think is important for us to consider and keep in mind going forward from here as we look into the next 3-4 years. Now, is America going to be the next Weimar Republic? Well, anybody that's been involved in prepping for a while is probably pretty familiar with the Weimar Republic. It's a subject that's frequently discussed, particularly one aspect which I'll get to later. But for those that are watching this that aren't familiar with it, the Weimar Republic was the German state from 1918 to 1933. It was a federal constitutional republic, and it was formed in the aftermath of World War I. The Weimar Republic, Germany, dealt with many problems after World War I, most notably hyperinflation, which is the one subject that comes up most often. There was political extremism. There was tensions between Germany and the countries that had won World War I. But from 1924 to 1929, there was a 5-year period that was relatively stable and prosperous for Germany. Essentially, it was a time where they were actually starting to recover from World War I and its effect, the after effects of it. But in October of 29, Germany was hit really hard by the global economic crisis, and that affected everyone. That had a bit to do with the Great Depression here in the United States. That wasn't the only thing that led to it, but it had some bearing on it. But Germany in 29 was hit really, really hard. They were hit really hard with extremely high unemployment rate, and that led to a government collapse. Now, there was still some aspects of government left in Germany. There were still chancellors, there was still a president, but overall, the government structure had collapsed. It had ceased to function properly. And that instability led to Hitler rising to power. I'm not going to go into a lot of that. He took advantage of an opportunity, and he manipulated the situation. He manipulated people. I'm not going to go into any more of that than that, but it led to his rise in power and eventually to World War II. But what I wanted to talk about was similarities between the Weimar Republic and the United States today. So, over the past 5 years, we saw Trump get elected, and he was constantly being attacked by the left. The left was constantly protesting, and I don't want to get into the political part of that. Uh, I'm not a big fan of Trump. Anybody who knows me knows that. There were some things he did that I liked. There were several things he did that I didn't like. But I was not a huge Trump fan. I try not to be a fan of any politician, anybody that's in office. I try to weigh everything they do on a point-by-point basis. And like I said, there were some things he did that I liked, that I agreed with. There were quite a few things that I disagree with him strongly on. So I don't want to get any hate mail or anything about that, because I'll probably ignore it or delete it. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to point out the similarities that Trump was elected. There was a lot of attacks from the left against Trump, and aimed at Trump supporters. There was a lot of protesting by the left, and there was some counter-protesting by the right. During his administration, though, it has to be noted that while it wasn't, at least I don't believe it was solely in response to his being elected. I believe a little bit of it began before he was elected, but during his administration, the stock market and the economic situation in the country did really, really well. There was a lot of benefit economically under his administration. Anybody that hates him would strongly disagree with me on that, but you can't argue with the numbers of the stock market. It was constantly going up under his administration. Whether that was due to his policies, due to, in part to incoming or the previous administration's policies, that's debatable. But during his administration, the stock market did steadily go up. It was a very prosperous time in the United States by many standards. But there were a lot of protests. Then the pandemic hit and there was the lockdown. That essentially crashed our economy. That led to more protests, more counter-protests, and that led to massive stimulus spending, which is the main point I want to get to. The social unrest and the economic spending, the stimulus. And you have to understand that with this stimulus, the government shut our economy down. So it was to a degree their responsibility to try to help people out. At the same time, we're printing money left and right. It's almost like pulling out a Monopoly game and just handing out paper money. It's worthless. We're doing nothing but increasing the debt and digging ourselves deeper and deeper in debt. And it's a debt that we'll never be able to repay back. We'll never be able to pay it back. His administration ended with a very contentious election. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want to get into that either. But with the new administration, Biden being elected, bite my tongue on that, but I'll leave that alone. But with Biden being in office now, there's even more spending. And to me, that's the major concern. All of this massive billions and trillions of dollars being spent, and we're not seeing the full effect of it right now. We're seeing a little bit of influence from all of that spending, but there's a vast majority of people that aren't paying bills because they're unemployed. They're not paying their mortgages. Now, a lot of people with the first two stimulus checks, a lot of them paid up on some of their bills. A lot of them paid up on their mortgage. But most people are spending that money on food and immediate needs. They're not spending it on mortgages and rent payments because there's more moratoriums on those. In fact, the number of people falling further and further behind on their mortgage or their rent is steadily climbing at dangerous levels. And that leads to a demand for more stimulus, more spending, more money, more printing, and all of this money is getting pumped into the economy, but it's not really going anywhere just yet. It's just kind of like backing up, like a clogged drain. And when that clog finally breaks loose, it's going to flow, and it's going to flow fast. The result of that is inflation. Now, if you look at the government's numbers, the numbers that they put out, they'll tell you over and over and over, inflation is they can't even get to 2% inflation. But if you look at how much things have gone up, not just over the past 10, 12, 20 years, but just in the past 2 or 3 years, there's already more inflation than what they're implying. There are some economics analysts and advisors that will tell you that the real inflation number is probably more along the lines of 6 to 8% instead of 2%. And according to the Fed, they haven't even been able to get to 2% yet. Personally, I don't believe a word they say. But the point is that when all of this money starts hitting the economy, and it will hit the economy, and it'll hit fast and hard, the result is going to be massive inflation. Will it be hyperinflation? Now, the point I wanted to get to is that the Weimar Republic is known for stories about people taking wheelbarrows of money just to buy a loaf of bread, or just to buy a little bit of food. It would take a wheelbarrow full of money. That's how worthless their paper money was. There's even stories of people dumping the money on the ground and stealing the wheelbarrow and leaving the money behind. It was that worthless. Now, will it be that bad here? I don't think so, and I'm going to tell you why. What I expect is that there are numerous people in the government right now, including the Fed, the Secretary of the Treasury. There are a lot of people pushing for a digital dollar. Now, China's already got one. They've already got their digital currency, and they're starting to use it. The United States is working on a digital currency. That's already been confirmed. They've already said that. They have a team from MIT working with the Fed and others to try to develop a digital dollar. What I expect is that before we get massive inflation or hyperinflation like the Weimar Republic did, they're going to reach a point where they're going to do a reset on our currency. It's basically going to be a default. Now, the government will tell you they've only defaulted once in our history, and then it wasn't really a default. But then you can find others that will say, no, we've defaulted 6 or 7 times. It's all debatable. It's all who you want to listen to and how you want to look at the numbers and the instances. But what I expect is we'll get hit with some massive inflation. The cost of things will get really expensive. Food is going to get extremely expensive. Gas is already going up, partly due to shutting down the pipelines, shutting down refineries, stopping drilling here in the United States. no matter how you look at it, Biden has been a disaster when it comes to the energy independence of the United States. We were starting to become energy independent. Now we're back to being dependent on the Saudis for our oil. Uh, that's a problem. So, as you can see, oil has already gotten more expensive. Gas is going up. There's also uh, the ongoing pandemic fear mongering that is promoting uh, shutdowns, supply chain interruptions, uh, and it's just going to keep building and building and building and causing everything, all the staples, all the commodities, all our daily needs to become more and more expensive. The problem is, with all of this printing, your dollar is essentially becoming worth less and less and less. So it takes more money to buy the same stuff that you bought with less money just a year ago. So what I expect to happen is I expect them to do a complete reset and switch to a digital currency. They've wanted to phase out paper money for quite a while now. They don't like the idea of cash because it's untraceable. They want to be able to trace and tax every penny that is spent or transferred. That's not a conspiracy, that's just fact. The more money they can trace and track, the more they can tax, and that's more money in the government's pocket, more power for them. That's government. That's just the way they are. So with this digital currency, this gives them an excuse to eliminate cash, switch to a digital currency where they can track everything. For people like me, that is a major problem. So what can we do about it? Well, it's the same thing that I've been saying all along. Buy food now, stock up food now. If you buy it now and put it back, you know you're always going to eat. But if you buy it now and put it up, the price is only going to go up. So, in a way, you're buying it cheap and you'll have it on hand, and later on it'll be more expensive. You won't have paid that much for it. That's more money in your pocket. So that saves you money that way. Save some cash, but I wouldn't hold a lot of cash. I certainly wouldn't hold a lot of cash in the banks because there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of funny actions going on with the banks behind the scenes that lead me to believe that they're not entirely stable. Now, the banks are constantly having to go to the repo market to borrow money from the Fed because they don't have the funds to maintain all of their transactions. And this has been going on for a year now. And they're doing billions and billions of dollars a month, hundreds of billions of dollars a month. You can go back and look at the numbers. It's massive spending. And it's spending behind the scenes that most people aren't aware of. Sorry, I got distracted. I saw something over there and I was watching it. But anyway, so what can we do? Buy food, store it. I still recommend minimum of 3 months of supply of food for your family. If you can get to 6 months, even better. If you can get to a year, that's awesome. Go for it. Have a little bit of cash, but don't hold a ton of cash. Personally, for me, I'm buying some silver and gold. I'm not putting all of my money in that because I'm not stupid. I would prefer to have my money spread out and diversified. So I'm buying, and I'm not buying paper gold and silver. I'm actually buying the physical stuff that I can hold. I highly recommend doing that But your biggest assets are going to be what you can have, what you can hold in your hand. That's going to be your food, your, your firearms, your ammo, and that's for security and defense, and for hunting. Um, have your gold and silver as a hedge against all of this inflation. That gold and silver will hold value a lot better than cash will. If you can hold your money in property or land, all the better, because land is only going to go up in value. But no, that's what I see coming. Now, will America be the next Weimar? I don't know. I'm hesitant to say that it's going to get that bad, because Weimar, from reading the history books, Weimar was pretty bad. But I will say that I do believe it's very possible that America could be more like Argentina's collapse or Venezuela's collapse. That is highly likely. In my opinion, that's extremely likely. The Weimar Republic was on a level above that, and let's just pray that we don't get to that point. But there's a lot of similarities between the Weimar Republic and what the United States is going through now that bears some consideration. It bears some thought, so that we can be prepared. There's no guarantee that it will happen, but it's always possible, and you need to be prepared for possible. So with that, I'm gonna end that there. I appreciate you guys watching and subscribing to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like and share this if you found it useful or beneficial. I'll have more videos coming out soon. I'll be posting the link to my Patreon page soon. I'm trying to get some content up there before I actually post it. And one of the content that I'm going to really be focusing on is the blacksmith shop build that I'm going to be doing. I've already posted one short video up there, and I will be posting more as I progress with the build. So, and I'll be adding more to it besides just the blacksmith shop. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and stay safe out there. Watch your six. Take care of your families. I'll catch you guys later.